Ugh. Ah, that morning moment. For so many of us, it's almost sacred.
Hmm.
The feeling stepping into the office, still shaking off the remnants of sleep, and there it is. That ritualistic first warm cup.
Yeah.
It's more than just a drink. It's a signal the day is starting, a quiet moment carved out in the routine. Maybe, just maybe, you have a similar relationship with your coffee cup.
It's incredibly relatable, isn't it? That comfort, that familiar aroma, that feeling of like turning the engines on for the day. It really weaves itself into the fabric of our habits.
It absolutely does. And that deep connection to a morning ritual is exactly what frames our discussion today. We're taking a look at a source that explores a really intriguing question. What happens when you decide to challenge that ingrained habit, that daily coffee connection, and swap it out for something else?
Okay.
Specifically for green tea. Our source material is an article that recounts a personal 30-day experiment. A German beauty editor, Maria Goldbach, she decided to take the plunge and replace her regular coffee with green tea for a whole month to see what would shift.
Ah, interesting. A personal test.
Yeah.
So our mission here is to really unpack this specific article, to understand the case it builds for green tea,
Mm-hmm.
laying out the theoretical benefits it highlights,
Right.
and then crucially, to dig deep into Maria's actual lived experience during those 30 days. What changed for her?
Yeah.
What did she feel? What insights can we draw from her personal test based entirely on what this source tells us?
Exactly. The article starts by presenting the arguments why green tea might be a healthier alternative in the first place, almost like setting up the hypothesis.
Hmm.
Then it moves into the real-world laboratory of one person's life. It's a great way to see how the theory might or might not play out in practice.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is how the article doesn't just jump into her story. It first dedicates space to outlining the specific compounds and effects it believes give green tea an edge.
Right.
It gives us the why behind the potential switch before showing us the what happened.
Right, and the article presents a pretty compelling case with 7 distinct reasons why it suggests green tea might be healthier than coffee. It really digs into the composition of green tea. Let's break down the first few of these points the source raises.
Absolutely. The first reason the article highlights is about achieving a state it describes as stable rest and high concentration.
Stable rest and high concentration sounds a bit like a contradiction.
It does seem like a bit of a paradox, rest and high concentration. The source attributes this potential effect to a specific compound, L-theanine.
L-theanine. Okay, that's something you hear associated with tea quite a bit. What does the source say about it?
Well, the article identifies L-theanine as a natural amino acid, and it points out something that makes it particularly interesting in this context.
Okay.
According to the source, it's presented as being unique to tea plants among the plant kingdom.
Unique to tea. Okay.
Its reported effects are quite specific. On one hand, it's said to reduce stress, promoting a sense of stability and calmness. This is where the stable rest part comes in.
Okay, so it brings a calming element, but how does that fit with high concentration? That's the other part.
This is where the article presents the really interesting part, the synergy. The source claims that L-theanine works with caffeine.
Ah.
Yes, green tea contains caffeine, but the combination of L-theanine and caffeine, according to the article, reportedly enhances concentration and focus.
Hmm.
It's not just one or the other, it's how they interact.
So the idea is that the L-theanine might sort of temper the potential jitters or anxiety from caffeine
Exactly.
while allowing the focus benefit to shine through.
That seems to be the claim. You get the focus without maybe some of the harsher downsides of caffeine on its own, thanks to this L-theanine partnership.
So the theory is you get the focus without the potential downsides of caffeine on its own thanks to this L-theanine partnership. That's a key distinction the source seems to be making.
Precisely. That synergy is a central plank of the article's argument for green tea's unique effect profile.
Okay, that leads us right into the second reason the article presents, which is about the caffeine itself, but not just its presence, its amount and how it acts.
Exactly. The source provides specific caffeine ranges to illustrate the difference. It states that green tea typically contains between 25 and 50 milligrams of caffeine per cup.
25 to 50. And coffee.
Coffee, the range cited is typically 80 to 120 milligrams per cup.
Wow. Quite a difference, potentially.
Yeah, notably lower. Though the article does add the important caveat that these amounts can vary, depending on the specific variety of tea or coffee and how it's brewed.
Sure. Strength matters. So less caffeine overall, often significantly less depending on the brew. But the source also says the way the caffeine hits you is different, right?
Yes, this is another point the article emphasizes. It links back to the L-theanine we just talked about.
Okay.
Because green tea's caffeine is presented as being bound with that L-theanine, the stimulating effect is described as having a slower onset compared to coffee.
Slower onset.
Think of coffee as a sudden punch of energy, maybe. While green tea, according to this article, is more of a gentle wave, a slower build.
A gentler ramp up. That makes sense. And does the source talk about how long that effect lasts? Is it shorter because it's less caffeine?
Actually, no. It claims the opposite. The article claims that the stimulating effect from green tea is described as lasting longer than the effect you typically get from coffee.
Longer. Huh.
So the potential benefit outlined here is a smoother, more sustained energy and focus curve throughout the day, avoiding that potential sharp peak and equally sharp crash often associated with coffee.
Right, that dreaded afternoon crash. That sounds like it could have a major impact on how someone feels and functions over several hours. Less of a roller coaster.
Exactly.
Okay, moving on to reason number 3 from the article, and this one resonates with anyone who's experienced coffee's less friendly side effects: acidity and its impact on the stomach.
Oh yeah, this is a common point of discomfort for many coffee drinkers, isn't it? The source highlights that coffee is known for its high acidity. And this acidity, particularly when coffee is consumed on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, well, it can irritate the stomach lining.
Leading to?
The result, that familiar, sometimes painful feeling of heartburn or just a general sense of digestive unease, a heavy feeling.
It can definitely feel heavy or uncomfortable. How does green tea compare, according to the source? Is it less acidic?
The contrast is drawn quite clearly. Green tea is generally presented as being much less burdensome on the stomach. It's framed as a gentle option, less likely to cause that irritation and heartburn that coffee can trigger for sensitive individuals.
And the article even connects this to a broader concept, the body's pH balance. What did it say there?
Yes, it does touch on that. The source suggests that if someone is concerned about their body becoming excessively acidic, potentially linked to dietary choices, then choosing a less acidic beverage like green tea could be a preferable option compared to coffee. It links the beverage choice to a potential influence on overall body chemistry, at least from the perspective presented in the article.
Interesting. So not just relief from immediate discomfort, but potentially contributing to a different internal environment. That's reason 3. The fourth reason the article raises is about the antioxidant power of green tea, something you hear a lot about in health discussions.
Antioxidants are indeed a hot topic, yeah. And the article positions green tea as a particularly rich source. It makes a key comparison right at the start of this point, distinguishing green tea from black tea.
Okay, how are they different in this context?
The difference, according to the source, is processing. Green tea is unfermented during processing, while black tea is fermented.
And how does that difference in processing relate to antioxidants? Does unfermented mean more?
Apparently so. The article states that this unfermented state is why green tea retains a higher concentration of natural antioxidants, specifically mentioning catechins.
Catechins. Okay.
These are presented as the primary beneficial compounds in this category.
Catechins. And what does the source say these catechins actually do in the body? What are their reported functions?
The article lists several functions attributed to catechins. They are described as having excellent anti-inflammatory properties.
Anti-inflammatory. Okay, that's significant.
Yeah, very significant, as inflammation is increasingly linked to various health issues. The source also says they help maintain cells in their normal, healthy state.
Cell maintenance.
And as a consequence of these functions, the anti-inflammatory action and cell maintenance, the article claims that catechins strengthen the immune system.
Strengthening the immune system is a compelling claim, and the article explicitly states green tea has more of these compared to coffee, not just black tea.
It does. The source explicitly states that green tea has a higher antioxidant content, particularly catechins, than coffee. This is presented as a significant point in green tea's favor.
Okay, so antioxidant power, potentially boosting the immune system and fighting inflammation. Reason number 5 takes us into even more serious health territory: cardiovascular disease prevention.
Yes, the article references some research. It's a bit vague there, but it does reference research to support its claims in this area. It suggests that regular, consistent consumption of green tea can have positive effects on heart function and the broader cardiovascular system.
What specific cardiovascular benefits does the source mention?
The article lists several points here. It claims that consistent consumption helps reduce inflammation, which, as we just heard, catechins are linked to.
Right, connects back.
It also states that green tea helps prevent cardiovascular diseases. More specifically, it mentions preventing fat accumulation in arteries, which is a key factor in many heart conditions, and lowering cholesterol levels.
Wow.
These are presented as direct benefits for heart health, according to the research the source references.
Preventing fat accumulation and lowering cholesterol are certainly significant claims. That's reason number 5. Reason number 6 focuses on metabolism, something many people are curious about, particularly regarding weight management.
hmm And the source uses strong language here, describing a huge synergy that occurs between the caffeine and the catechins in green tea.
Another synergy, like with L-theanine.
Seems so. It's not just the individual components, but how they work together again.
Okay, and how does this synergy reportedly impact metabolism?
According to the article, this combination plays a role in the body's ability to burn fat. It's said to promote metabolism, leading to increased energy expenditure, essentially. Your body using more energy.
Burning more calories.
Right. It also specifically mentions that this synergy helps suppress fat accumulation in the body. Given these effects, the source directly suggests drinking green tea if weight loss is a goal someone is pursuing.
So the combination of caffeine and catechins isn't just for mental focus, but for the body's energy processing and fat management as well, according to this source. That's reason 6. Finally, reason number 7 brings us back to those immediate felt effects we discussed with acidity, focusing on side effects.
Right. The source acknowledges that while coffee provides a stimulating effect, it can come with unwelcome side effects for many people, especially those sensitive to caffeine or maybe after drinking particularly strong coffee.
Yeah.
It lists common issues like body tremors, an increased heart rate, and a feeling of excessive tension or nervousness.
Jitters, basically, that anxious feeling.
hmm
How does green tea stack up in terms of side effects, according to the article?
The article contrasts this by saying that the caffeine in green tea tends to have fewer side effects compared to coffee's caffeine.
Fewer side effects.
Again, this loops back to the L-theanine synergy. The idea presented is that the L-theanine smooths out the caffeine effect, leading to less of that edgy feeling. The source suggests you get the stimulation without maybe as much of the jitters and tension.
Fewer jitters sounds appealing. And is there another health claim included in this point? I think I saw something else mentioned.
Yes, the article adds another potentially significant health benefit here. It mentions that drinking green tea is also linked to improving insulin sensitivity.
Insulin sensitivity. What does that mean in practice?
Well, this is important because improved insulin sensitivity is presented as lowering the risk of developing diabetes. So it adds a metabolic health claim beyond just fat burning.
Improving insulin sensitivity and lowering diabetes risk.
Hmm.
That's quite a list. So let's just recap the source's theoretical case for green tea based on what we've just discussed.
Okay.
We have stable focus and calm thanks to L-theanine and caffeine synergy.
Right.
Lower and slower caffeine effect, potentially longer lasting.
Mm-hmm.
Reduced acidity for stomach comfort.
Yep.
Powerful antioxidants, catechins for immune system and inflammation.
Got it.
Potential benefits for heart health, like reducing fat in arteries and lowering cholesterol.
Okay.
A boost to metabolism and fat burning via that caffeine-catechin synergy.
Yes.
And generally fewer unpleasant side effects like jitters, plus the mention of improved insulin sensitivity.
That's a pretty comprehensive argument the article builds before the experiment even begins. It certainly lays out a detailed picture of green tea's potential advantages based on its composition and reported effects. It gives clear reasons why someone might be motivated to try switching.
Absolutely. It paints a compelling picture on paper. But, as we all know, the real test of any theory is in practice. Does it actually feel different? Does it bring the benefits claimed? This is where Maria Goldbach's personal experiment comes into the picture. The article moves from the theoretical to the lived experience, detailing her 30-day switch.
Yeah, and this part of the article brings the potential benefits down to a personal, relatable level. It starts by describing Maria's baseline, her coffee habit, before the experiment.
What was her routine like? Was she a heavy coffee drinker?
She wasn't an outlier, it seems. Her routine was quite typical. She drank about 2 to 3 cups of coffee daily.
2 to 3. Okay. What was her pattern?
Her pattern, as detailed in the source, was that classic structure. 1 cup in the morning to truly wake up and get the day started.
The essential first cup.
Totally. Then another cup after lunch, presumably to combat the post-meal slump.
The 2 p.m. slump fighter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes a 3rd cup in the late afternoon, specifically when she needed to maintain focus for work.
A very common way to use coffee energy to start, boost in the middle, focus later. And the article mentions she wasn't entirely comfortable with this habit even before the switch. Did she have side effects?
That's right. Despite not drinking a huge amount by some standards, the source states that Maria sometimes experienced those classic negative side effects we just discussed, feeling shaky and anxious.
Ah, okay.
Yet, like many people, she found herself in a cycle where she felt she needed the coffee but didn't always like how it made her feel, and she felt unable to easily quit.
That feeling of dependency, even when it's not perfectly serving you, is incredibly common. So, what finally pushed her to try the switch? What was the trigger?
The article explains that she encountered information about the health benefits of green tea, likely the kind of points we've just covered. This sparked her curiosity, and she decided to conduct a self-test, a personal experiment for a month, to see if these reported benefits would manifest in her own experience and if she could break that cycle with coffee.
A dedicated month seems like a good period to give a new habit a real chance. How did the initial days of the switch feel for her? Was it easy? Like, did she miss the coffee immediately?
According to the article, it wasn't immediately seamless, no. In the first few days of replacing her coffee with green tea, she notes that she missed the strong, familiar taste of coffee.
Ah, the taste.
Yeah. That specific sensory experience that ritualistic satisfaction coffee provides was absent. It highlights that habit isn't just about the caffeine, it's about the flavor and the whole moment too.
That makes perfect sense. Coffee has such a distinct profile. When did things start to shift in her experience? Did she get used to the taste?
The turning point, as she described in the article, came after about a week.
A week, okay.
It took some time, but she became accustomed to the milder taste of green tea. It stopped feeling like a lesser substitute and started to feel like a beverage in its own right.
Mm-hmm.
Once she cleared that taste hurdle, she was able to consistently maintain the new routine, drinking 3 cups of green tea a day, just as she had with coffee.
So she kept the timing and frequency of the ritual, but changed the contents. The article also notes she had a somewhat unexpected realization during this adjustment phase. What was that?
She did. It's quite a striking detail.
Yeah.
Maria realized during the experiment that, surprisingly to her, she actually started to prefer green tea to coffee.
Whoa, really? Preferred it?
Yeah. The article is careful to point out that this is her personal preference. It might not be the case for everyone, obviously.
Sure.
But for her, the green tea experience grew on her to the point of preference over coffee.
Wow, preferring it rather than just tolerating it? That's a significant shift for someone who previously felt unable to quit coffee.
Ugh.
Okay, now for the core of her experiment. What were the tangible changes she felt in her body and mind over that month? The article highlights specific subjective changes as the biggest advantages she noticed.
Right, and the very first and the most significant impact she reported was a change in her energy balance. This wasn't a subtle difference. It was the primary thing she noticed.
Energy balance. Okay, how did her energy feel with green tea compared to her old coffee routine? What was the contrast?
She really elaborated on this contrast, according to the source. With coffee, she described that experience of getting a huge, sudden jolt of alertness, that immediate, I'm awake now feeling.
Yep, know that feeling.
But crucially, this rapid peak was often followed by a sharp decline in mood and energy in the afternoon as the caffeine effect wore off. It was an energy graph with dramatic peaks and valleys.
The classic coffee crash we mentioned. So how did green tea feel different in this regard? Was it just less intense?
It sounds like it was smoother. With green tea, she reported that those pronounced up and down emotional and energy swings were significantly less severe. Her energy felt much more balanced and stable throughout the entire day.
Stable.
She felt mentally clear, she said, but without those drastic fluctuations that coffee seemed to induce. It was a smoother, steadier state of alertness and focus. This aligns directly with the article's earlier point about the slower onset and longer duration of green tea's caffeine effect, potentially smoothed by L-theanine. For her, that theoretical benefit seemed to translate into a real-world experience of stable energy.
That stable energy sounds incredibly valuable for consistent productivity and mood. What was the next big change she noticed, according to the article? Anything physical?
Yes, another major advantage she felt was a reduction in heartburn and other stomach issues.
Ah, the acidity thing again.
Exactly. This directly relates back to the third reason the article presented, the lower acidity of green tea compared to coffee.
So the theoretical benefit of green tea being gentler on the stomach played out in her personal experience. She actually felt less heartburn.
Exactly. She stated quite clearly that green tea did not cause heartburn or give her that heavy, burdened feeling in her stomach, even presumably at times when coffee might have, depending on her eating schedule. It was a noticeable relief from digestive discomfort that she had sometimes experienced with coffee.
Okay, so a smoother energy curve and less stomach distress. What about the focus? She used that third cup of coffee specifically for focus in the late afternoon. Did green tea help with that, or did she miss the coffee kick?
Yes, focus was definitely an area where she felt a significant positive change. She contrasted it again with coffee, where trying to get that focus often came with those shaky, anxious side effects we talked about.
Right, the jitters.
With green tea, she experienced what she described as a gentle, sustained focus that lasted throughout her workday. And importantly, without the body tremors, the rapid heart rate, or the excessive tension that coffee sometimes caused her.
Gentle, sustained focus, without the side effects.
It was focus, but a much calmer, steadier version. This mirrors the article's claims about L-theanine mitigating caffeine's harsher effects.
Focus without the jitters. That sounds like the best of both worlds, really. Were there any other specific, perhaps unexpected changes she mentioned during the month? Anything else pop up?
There was one specific, quite practical detail she highlighted. She noticed a significant reduction in snack cravings.
Snack cravings. Interesting. How so?
She reported that consistently drinking her 3 cups of warm green tea throughout the day seemed to dampen her desire to reach for snacks between meals.
Reduced snack cravings. That's an interesting tangible benefit, not directly listed in the initial 7 theoretical points, but a real outcome she experienced. How might that connect back to ideas in the source? Any ideas?
Well, the source doesn't explicitly list reducing cravings as a benefit, but we could speculate based on the other points. Perhaps the more stable energy she experienced meant fewer blood sugar dips that trigger snack urges.
That makes sense.
Or maybe the ritual of drinking a warm beverage itself provided some comfort or satiety, filling that gap.
Mm-hmm.
The source also mentions green tea promoting metabolism and fat burning. Maybe there's an indirect link there too, somehow regulating appetite.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of the precise mechanism, for her, it was a distinct and positive effect of the daily green tea habit.
That's a great point, how the combination of benefits might lead to other positive outcomes. So just to summarize the felt changes she highlighted from her experience, the most impactful was the shift to a balanced, stable energy without crashes or mood swings.
Right, number one.
She experienced a reduction in heartburn and stomach issues.
Mm-hmm.
She enjoyed sustained focus without the jitters or tension.
Yep.
And she even noticed reduced snack cravings. These were the key advantages she reported from her personal 30-day test.
Those 4 points seem to be the core subjective benefits that stood out most for her during that month of switching, based on the article.
So, after living with these changes for 30 days, experiencing the nuances of the green tea routine firsthand, what was Maria's final conclusion? Did she stick with it? Did she go back to coffee immediately?
According to the article, at the end of the month, Maria declared that she had become a complete green tea enthusiast.
A complete
Yeah,
enthusiast.
she was genuinely, and she says surprisingly, satisfied with the change.
Surprisingly satisfied. Why the surprise? Do you think she went in expecting not to like it?
I think perhaps because, like many, she might have approached the experiment with some skepticism, or at least unsure if green tea could truly replace her deeply ingrained coffee habit and ritual.
Right.
The fact that she not only adapted but felt better and actually developed a preference was likely the source of the surprise. Her satisfaction, as she reiterated in the article, was primarily attributed to that balanced energy feeling stable yet mentally clear throughout the day. That was the key transformative feeling for her.
It sounds like that steady, smooth energy was the #1 outcome that really convinced her. Did the green tea habit stick beyond the 30 days?
Yes, the article makes it clear that drinking green tea became an essential and indispensable part of her daily routine after the experiment.
Wow.
It wasn't just a temporary test. It integrated itself into her life as her go-to beverage.
And how does she manage to keep it interesting or make it fit into different moments? Does she just drink plain green tea bags all the time?
Good question. The source mentions her finding flexibility in how to enjoy it, which likely helped make it a lasting habit. She suggests that it can be as simple and quick as hot water with a tea bag, which is accessible for busy mornings, right?
here. Easy.
But she also mentions using matcha powder with soy milk to create a latte.
Ah, like a green tea latte.
Exactly. Showing that there are many different ways to prepare and enjoy green tea, allowing it to fit various tastes and moments throughout the day. It's not just one thing.
That versatility is definitely key for long-term adherence to almost any habit. So based on her experience and the article's overall message, what is the final recommendation offered to the reader? Who should try this?
The core recommendation from the source is a practical one. If you are someone who experiences adverse side effects from coffee, those jitters, the stomach issues, the tension we talked about, then trying green tea, is presented as a worthwhile option to explore.
Okay.
It's framed as an alternative that might just be a better fit for your body, for your system.
It doesn't sound like the article insists that everyone must quit coffee forever, though. It's not that extreme.
No, not at all. And this is a really important nuance that adds a lot of realism to the article, I think. While Maria did go coffee-free for the entire first month to make the experiment clear and really isolate the effects,
Right, for the test.
she reveals at the end that she still enjoys a cup of coffee occasionally now, even though green tea is her daily standard.
Ah. So she didn't give it up completely in the long run? That adds a very human touch. Is there a specific example she gives of when she still has coffee?
There is, and it's quite relatable. The article includes the charming detail that she finds it particularly hard to give up having coffee with sweet cake on Sundays.
Coffee and cake on a Sunday. Yes, I can understand that.
Right. This specific anecdote beautifully illustrates the idea that the goal wasn't rigid perfection or total abstinence, but finding a balance that works and still allows for moments of cherished enjoyment.
Coffee and cake on a Sunday. That paints a picture of balancing health-conscious choices with life's simple pleasures. And this connects to a broader philosophical point the article makes right at the very end, doesn't it?
It does. The article concludes by reflecting on what truly constitutes a healthy life. It sort of paraphrases the idea that perhaps it's more important to be open to jumping into new things and learning how to enjoy life than to be extreme or dogmatic about every single health choice. Maria's example of embracing green tea daily but keeping her Sunday coffee and cake tradition perfectly embodies this philosophy, integrating a beneficial new habit while still holding on to moments of joy and relaxation.
That's a powerful message, that health isn't necessarily about strict rules and deprivation all the time, but about exploration, finding what makes you feel good physically and mentally, and allowing for enjoyment and balance. It reframes the whole pursuit of well-being.
It really does. It shifts the focus from rigid adherence to finding a sustainable, enjoyable way of living that includes trying new things and cherishing small pleasures.
Okay, so pulling it all together from the source we've been unpacking, we looked at the theoretical case the article built for green tea, the synergy of L-theanine and caffeine for stable focus,
Right.
the lower caffeine content and smoother energy curve, reduced acidity, the antioxidant power of catechins, potential cardiovascular benefits, a metabolic boost, fewer side effects, and improved insulin sensitivity.
Yep, the whole list.
And then we explored Maria Goldbach's personal 30-day experiment, where she reported experiencing many of these benefits directly: a dramatic improvement in balanced energy, less stomach distress, sustained focus without jitters, and even those reduced snack cravings. Her experiment led her to become a daily green tea enthusiast, finding that balanced energy transformative. But importantly, not feeling the need to become extreme, allowing for occasional coffee for enjoyment, embodying the article's final philosophy of balance and joy.
It provides a really detailed account, based on this one source,
Yeah.
of both the potential science bit presented and a real-world example of someone who found significant positive changes by making this swap.
So why is all of this information valuable for you, the listener? Well, it offers a detailed look at a widely available alternative to coffee, presenting specific claims about its effects and illustrating them with a personal anecdote. If you're someone who struggles with the jitters, crashes, or stomach issues from coffee, this discussion, based on the source material, gives you a concrete, explored option to consider.
Or maybe it simply sparks your curiosity about how small changes to a daily habit might have a cascade of effects on how you feel throughout the day. It gives you specific points from the source to reflect on.
Exactly. And perhaps observe in your own experience if you decide to try it. And here's a thought to leave you with, something directly prompted by the concluding idea in this article. The source suggests that a truly healthy life might be less about rigid extremes and more about being open to trying new things and learning how to genuinely enjoy life, finding your own balance, much like Maria keeping her occasional cherished coffee moment alongside her new daily green tea habit. What does this philosophy prioritizing exploration, enjoyment, and personal balance over strict adherence mean for other habits or routines in your life? Where else might embracing a less extreme, more joyful approach lead to positive, sustainable change?
That's a really worthwhile question to ponder indeed.